Thank you, Terry.
There are two questions. The first is, did you check this program against the Henrico program, which was earlier? And I'm wondering why Belief is not doing so well. It's a peer-based program, uses Al-Anon and Narconon as their basis, and it seems strange that that program would be. Is it just because it doesn't have the wraparound services when they leave?
It does. Actually, many of the men who, if you all will stand up, who are graduates and very successful. Many of them have been through the Believe program, and while there are certainly some fabulous aspects of that program, the largest default that I saw was the fact that it does not provide housing. The housing is really, really key. While they would do great and excel extremely well while they were on that tier, upon release they had nowhere to go. And so it was that 9 times out of 10 wound them back here. To answer your first question, I did look at Henrico programs as well as programs run in jail and prisons throughout the state or throughout the Commonwealth. And there are great programs out there, but none seem to be as effective as the one that I had the fortune of studying.
Just to follow up, and that's primarily because KLM has housing.
Correct.
What is the classification criteria for participation in the 2 tiers in this?
That actually is the beauty of this program. There is no criteria. They accept everybody from all walks of life, whether it's a violent offender or a non-violent offender, which is another aspect that really makes this program unique, because as you probably know, most programs don't accept violent offenders. And actually, I saw through my research that violent offenders are easier to rehabilitate, and there's more success in that. And that is also a huge difference in between the Believe tier and the KLM program and the Men in Recovery program. Believe only accepts non-violent offenders.
So it's voluntary.
It is. Every now and then you'll see a case where the other tiers of the jail may be completely full, and so they'll have to put somebody on that tier just for bed space. But if they request to be taken off, once space opens up, they will be able to leave the tier.
Are there any other questions? Okay, let's start with John.
It just seems to me like this is a great juncture for the state to embark on public-private partnerships, seeing how the state couldn't do this. Would you consider this a good starting point, a good study for the state to take serious?
No question. Absolutely no question. Hands down, it's something that the state and other localities should certainly look more deeply into.
Forgive me if this is in the document somewhere, but what percentage of inmates here at Richmond Jail have substance abuse problems?
Most of them. It's about 80 to 90% who do.
I have 2 more questions. First of all, what are the substance abuse treatment options for prisoners at Richmond City Jail who are not Christian?
This is a faith-based program. So while Christianity is the largest religion in it, there are some Muslim individuals in it and other religions. And so the main message is for a higher power. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christianity.
We have with us today Dr. Jerry Muhammad, who's with us from Muhammad's Mosque number 24. He comes to the jail every Tuesday night to minister to our Islamic residents. So that's one of the answers that something Dr. Scarbrough says.
And secondly, you did say that when you were tracking recidivism rates for the KLM program, you were able to track those rates across all correctional facilities in Virginia.
That's correct. The Virginia Compensation Board is the entity that houses the database with all of that information. So I was able to work with them and obtain that data.
Typically, if you hear recidivism rates, it doesn't cross institutions. The Department of Corrections, regional jails, local jails. So when you say it is X, it may be X times 2.
And really the most reliable source of, or the most reliable recidivism data is the national average, which is 67.5%. That's because, as Dr. Bosher mentioned, localities report to the states, and then it's typically an average of all of those numbers that gives you the state data. And so with that number being skewed, really people are encouraged to look at the national average as the realistic rate of recidivism.
It's a credit to the state because we have representatives here, but there is some software now that's being created and tested to bridge that, Sheriff. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There's reason to believe that the national average is low, actually, too, right? Because unlike what you did, which track people across the state. I mean, you might underrepresent people committing crimes out of the state, but that is a small percentage, very small percentage. But in other states, Texas being one of them, which claim to they, very much underrepresented because they didn't track them as well as what you did. You picked up on that error. We'll call it an error.
All right, one more question. Your logistic regression that you did, that was just on your study participants?
Correct.
And that was just post-release? So, like, just on the participants to find out if they were to recidivate after they had been released?
Yes.
Okay. So, was that controlling for all of those variables that you said you did correlation on earlier?
Yes.
And did you also find that drug use was not a significant factor when you did your logistic regression? Is that really surprising?
It surprised me as well, but I did. I found that drug and alcohol use was not a significant factor in recidivating. Not that they're not correlated, but there's other factors that are much higher in predicting recidivism than substance abuse.
And Sarah, if I could, I hope a message that you'll take away is recidivism rates went down, but also employee hours, you had fewer people out sick. Before, people didn't want to work there, so they were out. People work here. Hospital stays down, and costs down. Now, I don't know what you call them because of statisticians in the back, but this is more than a trifecta. Costs down, costs down, hospital stays down, recidivism down, and employee absenteeism down. They're for good lessons from a study like that. We don't normally get that.
I think we have one more question, man, in the back.
Hey, how you doing? My question is, the mental health diagnosis that normally comes with substance use, something like a drug diagnosis like that, are those issues being addressed with these in-house or is it outsourced?
Some. I didn't specifically look at mental health in this study. However, there are some men who have been a part of the program and currently are, who do battle mental health issues. And so this program does certainly accept men with that, but most of the services provided to address it are out of house and contract services.
I think we have time for one more question. Yes, sir.
What would be the best way the city government or state government could help KLM or another program right now?
Really on what John Shinholzer mentioned is key for the state to start partnering with private-run organizations such as the programs that we mentioned in order to provide these services. They can provide them for much cheaper. Actually, for between $4,500 and $7,200 is about the cost of a private program like these. And so if the state would contract with private programs to provide services, it would just be really instrumental to success.
And you're a graduate.
Okay, this concludes this portion of the press conference. The gentleman is in the back of the room with the lavender colored shirt, standing against the wall, raising hand, Jerry. He would be the person who would be taking anyone who has an interest in going on the tour of G3, where the study was actually conducted at on the tour. So just the
So who needs to go back to their car right now and who wants to go on a tour? So let's start first. Who needs to go back to the car? Okay. We'll get that group on the way first, and then whoever remains will take up on the tour in about 2 minutes, okay? Yes.